Alright, so I just got back from an early screening of Matrix Resurrections. Thank you so much for the invite there. And before I tell you what I think about it, I should talk about what I thought of the other films. Get those downvotes ready. If you've watched my Nostalgia Critic reviews, you probably know I'm not the biggest fan of the original Matrix movies. I don't hate them by any means, and I do see why they're popular. I just never got into them. But I do get, the idea for a lot of people, if this is their first introduction to the idea of, like, the world being fake and everything, and this existential, philosophical, look at the world. I get why people get into it. The action is great. It looks kind of cool. It was a perfect product of its time. The technology and effects, phenomenal, the martial arts and everything. So I do get it. But yeah, I thought the characters were boring as sin. A lot of the details didn't make sense. And I have seen this stuff before I feel like done better in other stories, but again, I do get that it was very much a combination of a bunch of these different elements from different similar stories kind of crammed into this one thing that I think really attracted a lot of people to it. Like, it came out at just the right time, to just the right people. So I do understand it, and I get why people like going back to it and so forth. But it never grabbed me, the big thing being the characters just being so dull. But when I saw the trailer for this movie, I thought it looked really cool, and I thought it was kind of a neat idea. So, when it started, I gotta tell you, it starts off great. Like, I love the first, maybe third of this movie, and I actually was thinking to myself, oh my god, like, am I seeing the best Matrix movie? Like, at least my personal favorite Matrix movie, because this doesn't start off like a Matrix movie. Actually, I take it back. Like, the first few minutes do. But as soon as Keanu Reeves enters the picture, this is more like 12 Monkeys, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, In the Mouth of Madness, Adaptation. It's a very existential, self-aware movie that is clever about itself, where there are a couple winks that did really concern me at first. I'm like, oh no, is this all gonna be in-jokes? But it does cleverly tie into the ideas that The Matrix presented and the other films did. And without giving away too much, I won't say how it necessarily does it, but they are very much indicating that maybe the three movies didn't happen. Everything that happened in those films has a very legit explanation that it was all fabricated. And done so in a very clever way, a way that makes sense. And for the first third of the movie, it's going back and forth between, is this real or isn't it? And in a way where, again, like in 12 Monkeys and a lot of these other movies, you're kind of saying to yourself, well, either's believable. We could believe that there's this, a different reality, we're all in this simulation and everything. Or it could be, this is all just a complete fabrication. And they back up each side with a lot of evidence. And it's like, man, I am gonna love this movie. I am gonna adore this movie. And then, almost like in the films, you wake up and you're like, oh shit, I'm in the Matrix! And it becomes a shitty Matrix movie. And it's a slow descent, granted. It's actually a lot like watching the original Matrix trilogy. It starts off kind of fascinating and interesting, and then it starts to get a little stale, and then it just becomes boring as hell. And it's a real shame, because it was nice to see Keanu Reeves now that I feel like he's just unbound to, like, the brand he created in the 90s, where he doesn't have to be the sourpuss, he doesn't have to just be the stoic, straight face, no emotion, whatever. It's like, no, he can, like, have emotion now, and he can have range, and he can have character, and I feel like he's really, really come a long way since, the days of, like, Bram Stoker's Dracula or something like that, or Point Blank or something, or The Matrix, where he just had to be this boring, bland nothing. One of the earlier scenes is Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss just talking in a cafe, And it's weird because they have personalities. Like, they're actually talking to each other, not about a mission, not about technical mumbo jumbo, not about deep philosophy and talking about how deep what they're talking about is. No, they're just talking about what they like and what their interests are and a funny thing that happened that day. And, you know, just they kind of work off each other. They talk like people. And it's weird. It's weird to see people talk like people in a Matrix movie. But it's really welcoming and it's really great. And so much, the commentary in the first third is so goddamn clever. Because, yes, again, there are some throwbacks to the original films and a couple things, you know, winking, saying, yeah, we know some of the problems of those, whatever. But what makes it so great is that the Matrix movies, kind of like old school Christopher Nolan, maybe new school? I don't know, I didn't see Tenet. But they would come in and explain to you what, like, we do. Like, they would movie critic the movie while the movie is going on. They would explain why a scene is awesome instead of just letting it be awesome. They would overanalyze, overwrite so many scenes, and the first third of this movie was not doing that. There was so much good commentary about not just connections to the Matrix, but just like living your everyday life and why it sometimes can feel like a simulation, or, you know, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? And, you know, again, with the delusions and what is reality and so forth, but done in kind of a funny way and in a way that kind of plays around with time. And, you know, you can have a scene going on where Keanu Reeves is talking to somebody, and it looks like shit's getting real and like he's gonna be in trouble, and then suddenly he's in like a room with his therapist. And he never says like, whoa, what just happened? Where was I? I mean, he doesn't do that. He just accepts, oh, that's part of his delusion, and okay, well, now I'm coming back. I get it. And just that right there has so much commentary, especially when tied to the Matrix. And the excuse they have to get around what the Matrix is and why he would be having these delusions, also very, very clever. There's a lot of like hidden little Easter eggs everywhere. If you watch the reflections in this movie, a lot of times you'll kind of see somebody different in there. Or like for a split second in a background, you'll see someone's like, wait, was that someone else? Oh no, that was Keanu Reeves. Like, there's all sorts of little things going on that you're questioning, and it does check out. But even before it checks out, even before they give you the explanation, you kind of don't need it because the ideas are already there and they're being explored, and they're being explored in such a clever way. I know it's weird I'm talking so much about just the first third of this movie, but the first third is really goddamn good, and I really wanted to put a spotlight on it because, goddamn it, it's like at some point they said, well, you still gotta do your usual bullshit. You gotta have it where they go to the real world, you know, where Zion is and stuff like that. And at first, that's not bad. It's actually letting you know, like, what happened and stuff. And there is still kind of that excuse, maybe this is all in his head. You don't know. But there is kind of the sense of, all right, well, they're letting you know what happened and the changes that have happened. They're interesting changes. Like I said, it kind of goes a little slower. It's a little dull, but it's keeping your interest enough. But then when they have to go back into the Matrix and they have, you know, now that he is awoken, and I don't know why I'm making fun of his voice now. Like, he's a really good actor now. I really shouldn't do that voice. No, but that's the other thing. When they go back into the Matrix, it's almost like his acting changes too. They're like, well, you know how you were like kind of uncomfortable and you were afraid to talk to Trinity there and stuff like that, you know, you're kind of awkward, and then you're thinking, what is life even? Is this a mental delusion? You're a really interesting character. Well, okay, scrap all that. Go back to that boring ass Neo piece of shit you were in the other films, you know, just like, good noodles, I know kung fu, I'll try. It's just that stoic bullshit that was so boring and not interesting, and is one of the main reasons I couldn't get into those films, is because they told everyone to act like that, and they slowly worked their way back to it, and it does become like that impression again, and it's such a shame because it was going so good, but you had to do the thing where then they come in instead of just letting you think about and talk about, different ways, different layers this can work, they explain it all to you. This philosophically is why this works. And the commentary, Neil Patrick Harris is going to come in. He's going to tell you exactly all the commentary of what's going on, huh? Isn't that like what's going on nowadays in real life? That's what you're supposed to think. That's what you're supposed to think. It's like, no, stop. And then what was really surprising, like, genuinely shocking to me, the action is not very good in this movie. I was floored to see that because, again, for the faults of the Matrix films, the action was always pretty solid, like almost groundbreaking. Like this was at the time when like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out and Hero came out, and just like they were combining martial arts and special effects to just create something that was really new at the time. And you can go back, years later and still be like, wow, the action in that still looks beautiful. I mean, it looks like a ballet of, just these incredible fights and everything. And yeah, it's wires and stuff, but it still looks great. This one, there's a lot of shaky cam. There's a lot of people in a crowded room, like it's really cluttered. There's only one bit at the end where I think that's kind of the idea. Like it's supposed to be kind of chaotic, and everybody is kind of squeezed into a room and it's hard for people to move. So that I didn't mind too much. But for the rest of the action, with the exception of one or two scenes where someone might do like a cool flip or something, not only will they do the shaky cam, but they'll do that awful cliche from like the late 90s where they'll kind of play with the frame rate and where something will be really choppy but it'll still be blurry, like they did in Saving Private Ryan a few times. And I love the way Saving Private Ryan is shot, but they did that effect and it's a terrible effect. And they only did it like at the end of the 90s, and because they're like, ooh, look at this cool thing we can do, and everyone's like, yeah, neat, that sucks. And they're like, oh, we better stop. And they never did again. Well, guess what? This movie's trying to bring it back, and it's in the action sequences. It's even sometimes like when a character is talking, and I think the idea is like it's supposed to be like glitchy or something like that, which, okay, fair enough, but they use it way too much where it can just, it's so hard to look at and it's just terrible to see, and I just hated it. I hated it in the 90s, I hate it now. There's a reason nobody's using it. So it's just a mix of that and then science mumbo jumbo and people sitting around in the circle saying, well, this is what we're gonna do. Well, how about the technical babble, whoa, we also gotta do this shit, and it's just nothing but that fuck throughout like almost half the movie, pretty much after that. So it's just like bad action and bad exposition and bad technobabble and bad explanations that are so obvious of what the film is trying to say. And it's such a shame. It's really, really a shame because this film started off so great. Like, I was really legitimately impressed with how into the movie I was getting. I'm saying to myself, oh my god, are they gonna go all the way with this? Are they actually gonna play it like In the Mouth of Madness or 12 Monkeys or something, where it's like the whole film is him trying to figure out, is this real or isn't it? And, the people in The Matrix are telling him, no, this is reality, come with us. But there's this therapist saying, no, look at me, look, I'm touching your hand, you are here in my office. And that is like really fascinating stuff, and you can read so much into it, especially with the history of the other three Matrix movies. And this was so clever. I was actually saying to myself, oh my god, like they're kind of doing what the new Spider-Man did, No Way Home, where they're doing this reboot and they're bringing back these similar themes, but they're doing it in this new, clever way. And I was getting so excited, but then they just went back to the same old bullshit, except they sucked out the cool action, they sucked out the freshness of it, and it just became another boring-ass reboot. It just really, really bland to me. But with that said, I will say, there are people that really, really like characters coming in and explaining the philosophy. They like a lot of technical mumbo jumbo. They like discussing what the mission is going to be. They like when people take it super serious and don't have a lot of expression on their face. Like that's apparently a style, and that's what got people into the other Matrix movies. So I guess there is a crowd for that, but I think not having, I think starting off with such a different tone and such a different style, like even the style just seems so different from what the rest of the film is with the first third. I think that mixed with the fact that the action is not as good and that we've seen this stuff before. Matrix fans have seen this stuff before already, and they're already kind of complaining about it in the Matrix sequels. I don't know if fans are going to get that into it, but I could be totally wrong. So if you see this movie and you're a fan of the Matrix films, whether it be the first one or the first one and the sequels, let me know what you think particularly of like two-thirds of it, the second two-thirds, if that makes sense. Everything after the first third. Do you feel like it comes through? Do you feel like it raises more interesting ideas? Do you feel like the action was different and you like kind of the shaky cam and it's a little bit more tight and crowded? Did you feel that was kind of welcomed as something different? Did you like a lot of the talk? I mean, there are some talks in this, particularly from Neil Patrick Harris, where it's like, I'm not disagreeing. It's not bad philosophy. I just like it when a movie says, hey, we'll let you discuss it. You can talk about this after you leave the movie, like what I'm doing now, instead of just grinding the film to a halt and saying, here's why we're awesome. Here's the meaning of everything. We don't want you to interpret too much. We'll tell you what it means. Like, that drives me nuts. So it's one of those things where I do say, or I ask you, I should say, does that stuff come through? Is it something where it's like, no, this is a good, this is a good reboot, this is a good collecting of everybody back again, or as many as there are, that's a little confusing too, about like Morpheus and Agent Smith and how they're there but they're not there. Like, I kind of follow it, but I'm not sure. Like, did you follow that okay? Again, I won't get into spoilers. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know if you're a fan of the original or the sequels. If this really came through, did this seem like a really good reboot? Like, this is what you were looking for? Did it fall short? Or is it somewhere in between? For me, it's almost somewhere in between. Because I like that first third so much. And even in that first third, they kind of make it clear, like, because you see some other characters before you see Keanu Reeves, like, oh yeah, no, this is going on, this is happening, whatever. But I don't know, maybe they did that in the Truman Show too, where it's like before they reveal what's going on, they kind of show you before they show Jim Carrey, and it's like, I don't know, but the little editor in my head for some reason just like ignores that, or got so wound up in everything else. I was thinking, well, maybe they'll explain that in a different way, where they would leave it kind of open to your interpretation. Is this real or isn't it? So yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts, particularly if you're a fan of the original movies. I'd love to know what you think of this one. Am I recommending it? I will say, if you're a fan of the Matrix films, just go see it. I think you're gonna want to either way, even if you heard it's terrible. I think most completionists are gonna want to see it, so many years have passed and they want to see what these people can do, and Keanu Reeves, especially now being older, especially. But like I said, get kind of in this new renaissance of Keanu Reeves that I'm really enjoying, honestly. So yeah, I definitely love to know what you think. Like I say, if you're a Matrix fan, I do say check it out. If not, I'd say skip it. If you just never got into the Matrix movies, if you're curious, watch the first third on HBO Max. I think you might like that, okay? But yeah, if you've never been a fan of it, I don't think this is gonna grab you necessarily. But there might be some interesting stuff in the first third I think you'd find interesting. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.